Hey folks, this is Rhykker with a Sombra Overwatch video on the big conspiracy behind the world of Overwatch. The too long didn't watch version of this video is that there is a huge global conspiracy about who really runs the show in the world of Overwatch. And Sombra has given us a glimpse into the major players in this conspiracy. That's the too long didn't watch version. So it was during Sombra's reveal at BlizzCon that we learned that when she was a young hacker, Sombra came across a global conspiracy. And unfortunately, the people behind this conspiracy also noticed her. It was once they spotted her that she then had to basically disappear, went off the grid, and completely changed her identity to now become the hacker we know as Sombra. But more than that, she also became determined to find out who is behind this conspiracy and to discover, quote, who really runs the world. Of course, so that she can then become that puppet master instead. One thing to bear in mind, though, is that at BlizzCon, Blizzard confirmed to us that Sombra is an unreliable narrator. So we have to take everything she says with a grain of salt. That means that we can't just take everything she says as fact. We have to accept that it is either how she personally sees things or how she's trying to represent things. So just keep that in mind. She may be misrepresenting things, deliberately or otherwise. Okay, before we dive into what will assuredly be a big discussion here, what exactly is a conspiracy? Obviously, we all know what a conspiracy is, but let's just clearly define its core concepts so that we can then better hypothesize on what's going on. So we got 3 bullet points here. First off, a conspiracy is something secret. It's not known to the public. Second, it involves multiple people or entities working together or at least agreeing to something. And lastly, it has some kind of objective, which generally is to gain some kind of advantage for the conspirators. So, because it's something secret, a conspiracy generally involves needing to deceive or mislead the public. Because of that, the people who are orchestrating a conspiracy generally aren't morally upstanding individuals. Combine this with what Sombra said, and it seems this conspiracy involves gaining or maintaining power over the whole world. Now, when she spoke about the conspiracy, Sombra brought up this image here. We see some things that we easily recognize, and other things that we don't so easily recognize. And the implication in this diagram is that some of these things are connected to each other in some way, and everything, ultimately directly or indirectly, is tied to the central eye symbol, which appears to be the entity that discovered Sombra when she was younger. Now, if we take a step back and look at this web, this is sort of reminiscent of a type of conspiracy known as a hub and spoke conspiracy. Picture a wheel, right? You have spokes that connect to a central hub. In the context of a conspiracy, the hub represents one entity that is conspiring with a bunch of other entities, the spokes. The hub is the mastermind that controls the spokes. And the spokes' knowledge of the conspiracy can be very minimal or almost non-existent. They often just know enough to keep them cooperative, and sometimes the spokes don't even know who the other spokes are, or that there even are other spokes. That's a bit of a simplified explanation, but basically this is likely the kind of conspiracy that we're dealing with here. You see both Talon and Overwatch, right? 2 organizations that are, as far as we know, enemies, both connected to the central hub. So if we're to believe Sombra's diagram here, either Talon and Overwatch are knowingly conspiring together toward a common goal, or what seems more likely, they are unknowingly furthering the goals of the hub. So let's take a look at who the spokes are. Let's start with Talon. It's a terrorist organization that is painted as villainous in the lore, but many fans question its true motives. Reaper and Widowmaker are known Talon agents, and Sombra is a known fake Talon operative. The most villainous thing that we've seen Talon do is when Widowmaker assassinated Takartha Mandata. He was a leader of the Shambali monks who preach spiritual equality between humans and omnics within something known as the Iris. Mandata was a huge symbol of peace in the world, which suggests to us that the hub of the conspiracy does not want to see peace between omnics and humans. Curiously absent from this diagram are the Shambali monks, which suggests they either are not a part of the conspiracy, or they're off-screen somewhere, or, most insidious of all, they may be a part of the hub. More on that later. Talon was also sent to assassinate Katya Volskaya, head of Volskaya Industries. But Sombra made the mission fail in order to further her own ends. So assuming Talon was working in the interests of the hub, why would the hub want to assassinate Katya? Well, she's basically the most important person in Russia. And that country is currently waging a private war with the Omnics in what amounts to a second Omnic crisis. If Russia lost Katya Volskaya, again, the most politically important figure in Russia, that would destabilize the country immensely, and it would move the world just one step further away from global peace. Moreover, it would further harm human-omnic relations, just like assassinating Mandata. Alright, now on the opposite side of things, we have Overwatch, an international peacekeeping task force that literally saved the world during the first Omnic crisis. Arguably, without Overwatch, the Omnics would have taken over the world. Since then, Overwatch has carried out operations against Talon, as well as the Shimada criminal empire. So it may seem odd that we have entities that appear to be in direct opposition of each other's goals, serving the same hub. Sometimes I don't know what I'm doing with my hands. But we'll explain why we're seeing this bizarre apparent contradiction toward the end of this video. Now, back to Volskaya Industries. This was the company that built the giant mechs used to defend Russia against the Omnics. We learned from Sombra's cinematic that Katya was actually getting technology from the enemy. In the diagram here, you can see a bunch of schematics, many of which point towards the workings of what appears to be some kind of power core. And we also see the Omnic informant from the cinematic handing off that object, or what appears to be that power core type object, to Katya. Now, somehow these mech designs are being linked to Numbani. That symbol is the city's flag, which you can see when you load into the map. Numbani is known as the City of Harmony because it is a utopia where humans and Omnics coexist as equals. Numbani also has a direct connection to the hub. Again, we're clearly seeing organizations that have competing goals working for the same hub. Specifically, Talon and Numbani now seem to be in direct opposition. Now, Numbani seems to also be connected to what appears to be a schematic for a four-legged walker Omnic. We see a lot of these types of Omnics throughout Overwatch animations and videos and art. Specifically, we see them currently in Russia fighting Russian troops. So what do these connections mean? Is Numbani somehow tied to both the mechs used to defend Russia and the Omnics used to attack it? This part is super vague and begs a lot of questions. Then we've got that four-legged Omnic schematic tied to Doomfist. It's not clear whether this represents Doomfist the weapon, just the gauntlet, or Doomfist the character, but because we don't have any official artwork of the current Doomfist, apart from a vague silhouette that really wouldn't read at that scale anyway, it could be that they're just using the Doomfist weapon to represent the character. Both the weapon and the person can both be tied to Numbani. We know why. The weapon currently is being exhibited at the museum in Numbani. This is the whole objective of the Numbani map. The payload is delivering the Doomfist to the museum. But it could also represent the person, because we know that Omnic human peace in Numbani is currently being threatened by Doomfist. There's also some suggestion that Doomfist might be seeking to retrieve his gauntlet, the one used by his predecessor. Again, Doomfist is more of a title. There have been 3 Doomfists in total, and we can talk more about Doomfist in another video. Now, because of the way Sombra's body is in the way, it's not clear whether Doomfist is connected to the hub, to Talon, or possibly to both. There does exist a hidden voice line in the game that has been data mined in which Rhykker says, Doomfist should do his own dirty work.
Doomfist should do his own dirty work.
Which suggests Doomfist is affiliated with Talon, and possibly even its leader if Reaper's doing his dirty work. Also, in the very first Overwatch cinematic, we see Rhykker and Widowmaker trying to steal the Doomfist gauntlet. This further connects Doomfist to Talon. Now, going on pure speculation here, Doomfist may be the one receiving these schematics for the four-legged Omnics. Possibly because he and Talon are somehow behind the Omnic crisis in Russia. But wait, Rhykker, Talon hates Omnics. Why would they be doing that? Well, by proving to the world that Omnics are evil, mindless killbots, then global peace between humans and Omnics would be severely undermined. And this would further serve to push Talon's anti-Omnic agenda. But again, that's just speculation. Also directly connected to Volskaya and the hub is Lumerico. And if you've been watching my Sombra videos, you know exactly who Lumerico is. It's an energy company based in Mexico, and its CEO, Guillermo Portero, pictured here, was exposed by Sombra to be corrupt. How Lumerico is tied to Volskaya is unknown, but it wouldn't be unreasonable to assume that Lumerico exported its proprietary energy systems to Volskaya. Lumerico was, after all, in negotiations with Vishkar to do exactly that. Now, curiously absent from the diagram is Vishkar, though it may be the large hexagon over here. Still, for a mega corporation like Vishkar to not have a direct connection to the hub is highly suspect. Vishkar is a company that Symmetra works for, a sort of architectural firm that builds cities and rebuilds existing cities' infrastructure with super advanced technology. It's the kind of company that outwardly pretends to be well-intentioned, but wound up exploiting and almost enslaving the people of Rio de Janeiro until Lucio staged a revolt. So that covers the major players in this diagram. Now let's go back in and fill out the rest of the names, starting with our familiar Overwatch members. We have Winston, Tracer, Mercy, Torbjorn, Reinhardt, Jack Morrison, who became Soldier 76, Gabriel Reyes, who became Reaper, and Ana Amari, who was presumed dead but was actually in disguise as her Shrike persona, or whatever you want to call it. Farah is Ana's daughter, who grew up around Overwatch and always wanted to join Overwatch, but unfortunately disbanded before she came of age. So instead, she joined the private security firm Helix Securities, which is tasked with safeguarding the Temple of Anubis. The temple, unbeknownst to the people guarding it, is actually housing a god program called Anubis, a super powerful and dangerous AI that was quarantined by Overwatch after the Omnic Crisis. This icon here may represent Anubis. You can vaguely make out the canine ears, and if that's not Anubis, then I'm not sure what that could be. Now you can see there's also a connection between Ana and Widowmaker through an unknown character. We can't be sure, but we suspect this to be Gérard Lacroix, an Overwatch agent who spearheaded operations against Talon. Talon kept failing to assassinate Lacroix. Well done. So they instead kidnapped his civilian wife, brainwashed her, and turned her into the killing machine that is Widowmaker. She then assassinated him. Now the possible tie-in to Ana is revealed through an in-game interaction between Ana and Widowmaker. Ana says to Widow, "Gérard was a fool to love someone like you."
Gérard was a fool to love someone like you.
This seems to be something that someone with a close relationship to Gérard would say. It's clearly speaking out of emotion. Now, given Ana is 60 and Widowmaker is as old as her daughter, I don't think that Gérard and Ana were lovers. And since Gérard is French, it's unlikely that Ana's his mother. So maybe something just like a mentorship or good friendship within Overwatch. Of course, this person may not even be Gérard at all, but we really have nothing better to go on here. You can see another unknown here connected to Ana and beside Farah. This is likely to be Farah's father. Overwatch lead writer Michael Chu stated in a forum post, "In-universe, the identity of Farah's father is not considered to be a secret. Farah knows who her father is. However, we haven't revealed it in the game or any of the related comics or animated shorts, or anywhere outside the game." This means that since Farah knows who her father is, it's unlikely to be someone that we know like Soldier 76 or Reinhardt. So it may be this mystery character here. Again, we have no better guess here other than Farah's father. Now, up near Torbjorn and Reinhardt here, we have Brigitte, Reinhardt's traveling companion after Overwatch disbanded. In Overwatch, Torbjorn maintained Reinhardt's armor. After Overwatch, Brigitte started doing that. Who Brigitte is connected to toward the top right is unknown. Maybe it's the Ironclad Guild where Torbjorn worked. Maybe it's the group of scavengers that Brigitte and Reinhardt fought called the Dragons. Maybe it's something else entirely. We don't know. Now, looking at the Shimada clan that Overwatch basically wiped out, we see Hanzo and another figure. Now, within the Shimada clan, leadership has always been passed down from father to son once the father dies. So after the death of the clan leader, brothers Hanzo and Genji became the most important people within the clan. The unknown figure here may just be a young Genji. I don't believe we have any official artwork of young Genji apart from his in-game model, and everything used here is artwork and not 3D rendered. So we may just get this placeholder portrait because we don't have any artwork for young Genji. And he may not be directly connected to current Genji because Sombra somehow doesn't know that Genji survived his assassination attempt and became a robot ninja? It's admittedly not the strongest theory, but we have no better guesses as to who that can be. Over by Katya, we have her daughter, who appears in Sombra Cinematic and whose entire purpose in the narrative is just to serve as blackmail ammunition. And then we have a man. He may be Katya's husband, or someone else entirely, like a scientist, since he seems to have schematics and or documents associated with him. In this image, we can make out the number 30. Does that refer to the periodic table of elements? In which case that would be zinc? Again, we really have no idea. Connected to Lumerico are Los Muertos. This artwork is confirmed to be the Los Muertos members seen in the hero trailer. In a video posted on the Pixelogic YouTube channel on October 26th, Blizzard artist Shannon Thomas showed the concept art from which these portraits were taken and confirmed that they were his designs for the characters we see in the hero trailer. So the strange thing here is that when Sombra dethroned the CEO of Lumerico, it seemed that Los Muertos were supporting her and opposing Lumerico. Does this connection imply that some elements within Los Muertos actually work with Lumerico? Given Los Muertos are basically a gang of opportunistic criminals who simply claim to want what's best for Mexico, it wouldn't surprise me to see that they're corrupt as well. Now, lastly, we have a figure directly connected to the hub and also connected to Reinhardt. It appears to possibly be an Omnic. This character is perhaps the most important unknown element on this chart because of his direct connection to the hub. Now, in trying to research this, I came across a video about this conspiracy released last week by Hammy, aka Failcraft. I'm sure many of you guys already know him, but if you don't, do go check out his YouTube channel. He makes really quality content and focuses on the lore of Overwatch. And even though in this video here, I cover a lot of the stuff that he covers in his video on the conspiracy, I feel we have different enough takes that you can go watch his video and still take away a lot from it. So Hammy basically believes that this figure here may be Liao, or specifically Liao's bot. Liao was a founding member of Overwatch, a figure we've all been expecting to be revealed and have been speculating on for a long time. Specifically, he believes the portrait may be of this bot here, and he cites the eyes and 3-dot pattern on the head as the relevant similarities, while admitting that the horseshoe shape is missing. This artwork here was the cover of a now cancelled, just recently cancelled, graphic novel called Overwatch First Strike. And in the image you see a lot of the founding members of Overwatch, so it's natural to assume that this character here is possibly Liao. And that robot or Omnic or mini mech, we don't know what it is, seems to be associated with that character. So if this figure is Liao or Liao's robot, that could explain the connection to Reinhardt, who's another founding member of Overwatch. Personally, I don't believe the visual similarity is strong enough. I feel that horseshoe shape is an important part of the design, and it's markedly absent from this image. That said, I really don't have a better guess. Other speculation suggests this may be Athena, Overwatch's helpful AI, and I find this unlikely because I figure Athena would have a direct connection to Overwatch, or at least to Winston. Alright, now that we've filled up the blanks in our diagram here, let's address the major issue. How could factions with directly competing goals all be serving the same hub? Does the hub want peace between humans and Omnics, like Numbani and Overwatch? Or does the hub want Omnics to be destroyed, like Talon and Volskaya? Well, let's hypothesize that for whatever reason now, the hub wants to see the world remain in turmoil, because that's likely how it could retain the most amount of power possible. This is not an unreasonable assumption. We have already established that the people behind this conspiracy are, at best, morally gray and far from altruistic. Again, these are people that have to be deceiving the public. Entities like this thrive best in times of conflict. In a state of altruistic world peace, power is a less important concept than in a world where fear makes people easily manipulated and want to rely on leaders or organizations to keep them safe. Likewise, if Omnics completely take over the world, that's another form of world peace. So as long as the world remains in a state where the Omnic threat remains alive, then the hub would be able to maintain its maximum possible amount of power by capitalizing on a fearful populace that is easily manipulated. In this event, it would also play both sides of the field. If the dial ever turns too much towards world peace, well, it helps one side. If the Omnic threat is becoming too great, it helps the other side. Now, this is of course just a hypothesis, but it's a nice way to explain how you can have factions with different goals, all being manipulated by the same hub. But that begs the question, who's the hub? Now, it would have to be some entity that appeals to all spokes. And to do that would require a high degree of duplicity. If the hub is obviously evil, then Overwatch won't work with it, and if it obviously wants world peace, then Talon won't work with it. So I posit that the hub is either a god program that just sort of changes its face, if you will, depending on who it's talking to, or it's a clandestine group like the Illuminati that has basically infiltrated major positions within all these various organizations in order to manipulate them into serving the hub's will. And going back to it being a hub program and presenting itself in different ways to different groups, to Overwatch, for instance, it may be Athena, who again is missing from this diagram. Now, Overwatch has a direct link to the hub. If Athena is part of that hub, then this would completely explain that direct link. And remember how we said that the Shambali monks were missing from that diagram? Their core beliefs revolve around something called the iris. It may just be coincidental that the symbol that discovered Sombra is represented by an eye, but it's still noteworthy. Maybe the hub is the iris, and all along it's been deceiving people to further its own ends. Maybe it's a god program, and it's seeking the destruction of all other god programs, so it's the only one left. Now you may ask, well, it can't be the iris because the hub got Talon to assassinate Mondada, the leader of their religion. While again that may seem contradictory at first, it could be that they wanted to create a martyr. You see, while he was alive, Mondada was a huge symbol of peace and unity, but his assassination was a symbol of war and divisiveness. And his death may even spur some of his supporters to violence, which is the exact opposite of the message he preached. Now, at this point, I'm getting a little bit too deep down the conspiracy rabbit hole here, so we'll stop it there. Again, this was all speculative, and I really don't know what to believe at this point. What I can say is that it's all super interesting, and I can't wait to get more clues to see how this conspiracy unravels. But until then, what do you folks think? Sound off in the comments. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Twitch and Patreon supporters for making these videos possible. Check out these other videos, and subscribe to join Rhykker's Raiders to keep up to date on all things Sombra.